Welcome everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to check our previous videos, as well as drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. Jalen Carter first saw Brielle Whitfield at a young professionals networking mixer in downtown Chicago. He had come straight from a temp job, still in a wrinkled shirt and scuffed shoes, clutching a folder of resumes. Brielle looked like she belonged in a magazine, sleek twist-out, emerald dress, and easy, confident smile. She asked what he did, listened intently, then casually mentioned her father was Raymond Whitfield, CEO of Whitfield Dynamics, a fast-growing logistics firm. When she laughed at his jokes and slipped him her number, Jalen walked home feeling like his whole life had just shifted. Their first dates were simple. Food trucks by the river, long walks through Millennium Park, late-night calls that stretched until dawn. Brielle was charming, witty, and always surrounded by friends and opportunity. Jalen told her about his dreams of finally landing a stable corporate job after years of temp work and side gigs. She tilted her head, studying him, and said, "You're too smart to be bouncing around. My dad's company needs people like you. Let me talk to him." Her words felt like a door opening in a hallway he had been stuck in for years. A week later, Jalen found himself in the sleek glass tower that housed Whitfield Dynamics, sitting in a conference room with a panoramic city view. The interview went smoothly. The hiring manager seemed impressed by his work ethic and adaptability. Jalen noticed the way staff greeted Brielle when she walked by, like she was royalty. That night, she texted him a simple message. "Congratulations, baby. You're in." Jalen stared at the screen, heart racing with joy and disbelief. He called his mother, who cried over the phone and said, "Maybe this is finally your breakthrough." Jalen started as a mid-level operations analyst, grateful for the steady salary, benefits, and the chance to prove himself. Brielle loved to remind him how she had pushed for him. "My dad trusts my judgment," she said, brushing his cheek with her fingers. "I told him you'd be his hardest-working hire this year." At first, he saw her as his biggest supporter. She would stop by his desk, bring coffee, kiss his forehead in the parking lot. It felt like they were a power couple in the making. Jalen told himself that all the long hours were worth it. In his second month, Jalen was assigned to work under Andre Coleman, a senior analyst with a charming smile and an expensive taste in suits. Andre introduced himself with an easy handshake and a grin. "We move fast here," he said. "Stick with me and you'll be fine." He talked about exclusive client dinners, big bonuses, and company perks. Jalen admired his confidence and energy. He assumed Andre's polished demeanor was a result of years of hard work. He did not notice at first how often Andre delegated messy tasks and vanished just before crunch time. Jalen quickly developed a reputation for reliability. When project timelines tightened, he stayed late. When reports were incomplete, he filled in the gaps. Andre began forwarding him tasks with vague instructions. "Can you tighten this up?" Or "Just run the numbers and send it back." Jalen wanted to impress, so he complied. One night, after a 14-hour workday, he realized almost every major deliverable had his fingerprints on it, yet only Andre's name appeared in the executive summary slides. Still, Jalen told himself his time would come. Promotions favored those who sacrificed early. Brielle was hired into the marketing department as a strategic initiatives coordinator, a title so vague Jalen was not entirely sure what she did. One afternoon, she came by his cubicle with a stack of incomplete campaign reports. "Can you help me clean these up before tomorrow?" she asked, leaning down to kiss his cheek. "You're better with data than I am." He happily agreed, flattered that she trusted his skills. After that, her requests became more frequent. Presentation decks, market research, performance summaries, always urgent, always accompanied by a sweet smile and a soft, "I owe you." Before long, Jalen's typical day stretched from early morning to late night. He juggled his assigned tasks, Andre's overflow, and Brielle's unfinished projects. His lunches grew shorter, his apartment messier, his sleep scattered. Co-workers joked he should put a cot under his desk. He laughed with them, but in private, exhaustion pressed on his chest. He told Brielle he was overwhelmed. She curled up against him on the couch, tracing circles on his arm. You are building something, she said, soothingly. My dad notices who goes above and beyond. Do this now, and you will be set for life. The first Rayall crack appeared on an ordinary Tuesday. Jalen walked past a small conference room and saw Brielle sitting close to Andre, their heads bent over a laptop screen. The door was slightly open. Andre's hand brushed her knee and lingered longer than necessary. Brielle laughed softly, a laugh Jalen had once believed belonged only to him. When they noticed him, Andre straightened quickly, and Brielle's smile flattened into something tight. Hey, babe, she said too brightly. We're just going over a joint project. Jalen swallowed his discomfort, telling himself he was overreacting. That evening, Jalen asked casually about the meeting. We're collaborating on a cross-department campaign, Brielle said, without looking up for her phone. Marketing and operations need to be aligned. It's normal. Her tone carried an edge of impatience. When Jalen hesitated, she snapped, Do you not trust me? The question hung heavy in the air. He backed down immediately, apologizing. She sighed dramatically, finally slipping her hand into his. You've been under a lot of stress. Don't create problems where there are none. Jalen nodded, but the image of Andre's hand on her knee would not fade. Over the next few weeks, more small things nagged at him. Late-night texts from clients that made her smile and tuck the phone away. Sudden evening strategy sessions with Andre that ran long after office hours. A perfume scent on Andre's blazer that smelled exactly like Brielle's. When Jalen voiced concern again, she rolled her eyes. You're being insecure, she said. Do not mess this up. My dad took a chance on you because of me. If you start acting jealous and unprofessional, it will reflect badly on both of us. The warning was subtle, but it landed hard. Meanwhile, Andre's star rose sharply. He was invited to leadership retreats, sat in on board presentations, and was given increasingly high-profile clients. Jalen watched as Andre took credit for project outcomes that had relied heavily on Jalen's unseen labor. Promotions were whispered about in hallways, and Andre's name was always mentioned. Jalen tried to be happy for the team's success, but resentment simmered. He began to notice a pattern. Andre was perpetually too busy to finalize reports, and Brielle always seemed to have half-finished deliverables. Both repeatedly leaned on Jalen, who quietly cleaned up behind them. One afternoon, Jalen overheard a conversation between two HR staff members in the break room. Andre is up for another bonus, one said. Apparently, his numbers are stellar. The other replied, Whitfield really trusts him. Plus, everyone knows Brielle loves that guy's ideas. The way she said loves made Jalen's stomach twist. That night, he asked Brielle point blank if there was anything going on between her and Andre. She laughed, a cold, sharp sound. You should focus on your work, not my friendships, she said. Remember, this job came through me. Do not forget that. The next week, Jalen stayed late to finish a report Andre had procrastinated on. While walking past Brielle's office to drop off a file, he heard muffled voices and soft laughter behind the closed door. The light was off, but a strip of illumination spilled from the crack at the bottom. His heartbeat thudded loudly in his ears. He hesitated, then gently pushed the door open. Inside, he saw Brielle perched on the edge of her desk, Andre standing between her knees, their faces inches apart. Papers were scattered, forgotten. Time seemed to slow. They both froze. What are you doing here? Brielle's voice snapped like a whip as she jumped back, adjusting her blouse. Andre stepped away, hands lifted as if he'd been caught in a harmless joke. Jalen's throat went dry. I was bringing your file, he said quietly, setting the folder down with trembling fingers. The room felt smaller, suffocating. This is not what it looks like, Andre said, too smoothly. Brielle's eyes flashed with fury, not guilt. You do not barge into my office unannounced, she said. We were working. Jalen looked at her and finally knew she was lying. Later that night at her apartment, Jalen tried again. I saw you, he said, voice shaking. Do not insult me by pretending it was nothing. Brielle stared at him, arms folded, expression hard. You walked in on a private conversation and misread it, she said. You are tired. You have been under pressure. Stop being dramatic. When he refused to back down, her face changed. The sweet veneer dropped, revealing cold calculation. Listen carefully, she said, leaning forward. My father owns this company. If you start spreading stories about me or Andre, I will make sure you regret it. Her words landed like blows. Are you threatening my job? Jalen asked quietly. Brielle did not flinch. I am protecting my future, she replied. Remember who opened the door for you. It would not take much to convince my father that you are unstable, ungrateful, and disruptive. You want to accuse me? Think about your mother. Think about your bills. Think about how easily that offer letter can be reversed. Jalen stared at her, the woman he had once imagined marrying, and saw a stranger who viewed him as something disposable, useful only as long as he stayed silent. For days, Jalen moved through the office like a ghost, the threat echoing in his head. He doubted himself, wondered if he had misjudged everything. Maybe he should just keep his head down, do the work, and pretend he had seen nothing. But every time he watched Andre saunter past his desk, or saw Brielle laughing in the hallway, rage flared in his chest. At lunch, his colleague, Ms. Angela Johnson, a seasoned project manager, sat across from him and studied his tired eyes. You look like you are carrying too much, she said gently. Do not let this place break you. Jalen hesitated, then asked a general question. What happens to people here who take on too much for others? Angela smiled sadly. They burn out while the smooth talkers rise, she said. But remember, everyone leaves footprints in this place. Emails, approvals, timestamps. Truth has a way of surfacing. The key is to protect your own record. Do your job well. Document everything. Never be the one holding someone else's mess when the lights come on. Her words stuck with him. That night, Jalen went home and began organizing his emails and files, saving copies of everything he had done. As he scrolled through months of correspondence, patterns emerged. Requests from Andre marked urgent with vague directions. Messages from Brielle asking him to finish this deck or fix these numbers before morning. His name appeared in track changes, comments, and late-night submissions. Their names appeared as final authors. Jalen created a personal folder, offline, carefully backed up, containing proof of his contributions and a clear trail of who had relied on him. He did not plan a grand expose. Instead, a quieter idea formed. He would stop being their invisible safety net. He would do only what was officially his responsibility. The change was subtle at first. When Andre sent another last-minute message, "Can you clean this client proposal before 8?" Jalen replied, "I am at capacity with my assigned workload. You may need to finalize this one." When Brielle dropped a half-finished deck on his desk, he smiled politely. "I have to prioritize my own projects," he said. "Maybe ask someone on your team." Their surprise was evident. Andre's response was curt, Brielle's glare sharp, but Jalen stayed calm. He still worked hard, still delivered excellent results on his own tasks, but he no longer absorbed the consequences of their laziness. Within a week, cracks started forming. Andre missed a client data cutoff because he assumed Jalen would step in. The client sent a frustrated email, copying senior management. In another instance, Brielle's campaign report contained obvious errors, a mislabeled chart, outdated figures. When her father questioned the mistakes in a meeting, Brielle stammered, glancing unconsciously in Jalen's direction. Jalen met her gaze with a neutral expression and said nothing. He had not touched that report. The room fell silent, tension thick. Andre brushed it off with a joke, but their confident facade was now visibly fraying. A major turning point came during a high-stakes presentation for an important logistics client. Andre was supposed to lead the meeting, supported by Brielle's market analysis. Jalen's role was limited to answering technical questions about systems he had directly worked on. As the client flipped through the slides, they began asking pointed questions about inconsistent figures and unsupported projections. Andre stumbled, clearly unfamiliar with the details. Brielle attempted to distract with big-picture language, but it only frustrated the client more. All eyes eventually turned to Jalen, who calmly explained the parts he had handled. Clear, accurate, well-supported. After the disastrous meeting, The client requested an internal review of the project team structure. They sent a formal complaint about misrepresentation of data and lack of ownership. This triggered an internal audit, led not by Raymond Whitfield alone, but by a committee that included board members and senior HR staff. Emails were pulled, version histories examined, and project timelines reconstructed. Jalen answered every question directly, providing evidence of his work without attacking anyone. The paper trail told its own story. One man consistently doing the heavy lifting, while two higher-ranking employees relied on his labor and took credit. Late one evening, Jalen received an unexpected calendar invite. Meeting with CEO Whitfield. He entered the executive office with steady steps, though his heart raced. Raymond sat behind a large desk, eyes weary but sharp. For the first time, Jalen saw him not just as Brielle's father, but as a man responsible for hundreds of livelihoods. "Sit down, Jalen," Raymond said. After a long pause, he continued, "I have reviewed the audit. It appears you've been carrying more than your share for quite some time." Jalen nodded, choosing his words carefully. "I tried to be a team player, sir." Raymond studied him. "You did not come to me earlier," he said, "even when my daughter threatened your position." Jalen felt his chest tighten. "I did not want to seem ungrateful," he replied quietly, "and I did not want to turn personal issues into office drama. I simply decided to focus on my responsibilities and let people stand on their own work." Raymond leaned back, exhaling slowly. "You showed more restraint than many in your position would have. The board respects that. Integrity under pressure tells me more about a person than any glowing reference." A few days later, HR summoned Andre. The meeting lasted less than an hour. By the afternoon, whispers spread. Andre's employment had been terminated for performance issues and misrepresentation. His name disappeared from the internal directory. Meanwhile, Brielle's profile vanished from the company website, replaced by a brief internal memo stating she would be stepping away to pursue personal opportunities. Those who knew the family read between the lines. Jalen received no gloating messages, no apologies, but he noticed the way some colleagues looked at him now, with a mixture of respect, curiosity, and quiet acknowledgement. Brielle did not stay silent for long. She showed up at Jalen's apartment one evening, eyes red but jaw still firm. "You did this," she accused, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "You turned my own father against me." Jalen shook his head. "No," he said calmly. "You did that when you chose to use me and betray me. All I did was stop hiding the truth of my work." She scoffed. "You will never get another chance like this if my father changes his mind." He met her gaze steadily. "I would rather lose a job than my self-respect." A week later, the company announced a restructuring of the operations department. At the all-hands meeting, Raymond addressed the staff. "We have identified areas where accountability and leadership were lacking," he said. "We are making changes to reward those who demonstrate consistent integrity and performance." He then called Jalen's name. Effective immediately, Jalen Carter will be promoted to Senior Operations Lead, with expanded responsibilities and improved compensation. Applause filled the room. Jalen felt a wave of relief and quiet pride wash over him. His new role came with better hours, clearer boundaries, and the authority to set fair expectations. Months passed. Jalen settled into his new position, building a team where credit was shared and workloads were transparent. He left the office most evenings while the sky was still streaked with color, no longer chained to his desk by other people's negligence. Sometimes he thought of Brielle and Andre, not with longing, but with a detached understanding of how power and entitlement can warp people. One Friday, as he walked out of the Whitfield Tower, the cool air hit his face and he smiled to himself. He had nearly lost everything, but in choosing himself, he had finally won. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.